Reading The Unknown Reality by Jane Roberts, a Seth book, Volume 2. Alright, reading session 743. Technically this is the last session and end of the book, but there is one more where Seth answers some questions, so there'll be another video for the full completion of this awesome book. Okay, so Seth starts by saying, no book entitled The Unknown Reality can hope to make that reality entirely known. It remains nebulous because it is consciously unrealized. The best I can do is to point out areas that have been relatively invisible, to help you explore actually different facets of your own consciousness. To some extent, this book has been written to help you exercise your own intuitive and mental capacities from a different viewpoint. In a way, it is meant to familiarize you with elements of your own reality of which you may have been unaware, and to introduce you to certain subjective states of mind that are automatically aroused because of the manner in which the book was produced. Besides this, however, it contains what you may call cues that automatically open up greater levels of your own awareness, and hence bring into your conscious life some recognition of the unknown reality, in which you also have your being. The subject matter itself entices your imagination. That intuitive faculty will then illuminate the intellect so that it learns to question in a broader, more exciting and productive manner than perhaps it did before. I am well aware that the book raises many more questions than it presents answers for, and this has been my intent. The unknown reality will become known to the extent that you form new questions and forget the old frameworks in which answers and myths were automatically given in response. If this book, quote-unquote, works, then many old questions will be seen as relatively meaningless, formed not after any intimate encounter with basic issues, but in response to old dogmas. The quote-unquote proper questions about the unknown reality will automatically bring more of it into your experience. Many of the questions you think were not answered in this book, however, have been answered, but from a different angle. The answers presented in such a way that they will entice you to further creative thought. You are the unknown reality, to the extent that you do not recognize, realize, or experience the many facets of your own being. As always, I say that the answers lie within yourself, not in the exterior world. Clues may indeed be found there, however, because the exterior conditions mirror so perfectly your inner, individual, and mass experience. This book itself, because of the methods of its production, is an excellent example of the unknown reality becoming, if not quote-unquote known, then recognized. Do not look for neat answers or tidy solutions, for when you do, your explanations and theories will always be too small. There is always an unknown reality to some extent, for the miracle of your being works outside of the kind of explanations that you so often seem to require. Your ready answers end up limiting your own experience because you try to fit your subjective behavior into the cramped boot of preconceived ideas. Your experience creates new questions in the same way that a painter creates new paintings. The unknown reality. Many of you, I know, would like to find in this book answers pertaining to Atlantis, the Bermuda Triangle, UFOs, and many other such questions. Those matters certainly seem pertinent in the framework of your experience and beliefs. You already have a great variety of explanations offered. Writers in many fields have produced books about such topics. By far the greater questions, however, are those pertaining to the unknown reality of the psyche, and those that relate to the kind of being who perceives in one way or another an Atlantis, a Bermuda Triangle, a UFO. For in greater terms, until you ask deeper questions about yourselves, these other experiences will remain mysterious. You cannot understand perceived events unless you understand who perceives them. You must learn more about the slant of your own consciousness before you are in a position to ask truly pertinent questions about the reality that you perceive. There are many who will give you answers to such questions. The answers will be couched in a framework of beliefs that you have held individually and collectively for some time. In this book, I am purposely trying to lead you into a larger, more expansive way of looking at yourself and the world in which you live. When I consider those Atlantis, UFOs, and so forth, and other such matters, it will be from a much different perspective. By then you, my readers, will be familiar enough with the unknown reality to understand answers given in a different context. This book had no chapters to further disrupt your accepted notions of what a book should be. There are different kinds of organizations present, however, and in any given section of the book, several levels of consciousness are appealed to at once. The threads of the work are interwoven so that various portions of your consciousness are sent out, so to speak, on separate journeys of thought and imagination. Yet these side trips are also related. They intertwine, not only through the psychic organizations that I have given to this book, Unknown Reality, but because of the great uniting nature within the consciousness of each reader. Again, Rupert and Joseph have moved to a new place. Each reader has also journeyed to a new position within the psyche, however. This book is a bridge between realities. Reading it, each person sets out upon a psychic pilgrimage through the unknown realities of his or her own consciousness and experience. No one can predict the destination. I am a part of your unknown reality, and you are a part of mine. To some extent, in these pages, our realities meet. To the extent that you do not know yourself, you do not know the world. To the extent that you do not know yourself, you do not know your husband or wife or mother and father. To the extent that you do not know yourself, you do not know what God is. To the extent that you do not know yourself, you do not know what nature is. The unknown reality exists to the extent that you do not travel joyfully through the intimate lands of the psyche, to the extent that you do not directly experience your life as original, but accept labels put on by others. The unknown reality exists as a challenge, an exciting endeavor, as each individual becomes consciously aware of intimate subjective feeling. Do not overlay the personal daily aspects of your life with preconceived ideas about who you are, what you are, where you are, why you are. Become aware of the original nature of any given moment as it exists for you. Forget what you have been told about time and space. Refuse to accept ideas that limit the dimensions of your own natural being. Again, the unknown reality is what you are. He says, end of dictation, end of book. But like I said, there is one more session where there are questions that are answered. And I'm going to read those questions to you guys here, and they will be answered in the next session. So here are the 3 questions asked by Rob. He wrote them down. But first of all, let me just read this up here. Okay, so right here, Rob states that he could see that Jane was not only sad that the long project was finished for her, but uneasy too. She was suddenly set loose, released from a framework that had come to be very familiar over the last 14 and a half months. Not that her new freedom hadn't been expected, but she's so creative that as soon as she is through with one undertaking, she's ready to launch into another. And this applies even though she's been working on her other book, Psychic Politics, her own book, outside of the Seth framework. That's her focus in life, and mine too, the full commitment to artistic production. I had often heard her comment about being in a kind of limbo between works. Her abilities demand use and release. So Rob is pointing out some cool stuff there, and then here's his questions. So the first one is, will this work be published in 2 volumes? Yes, we already know it has. So question number 2. He asks, in our terms of time, what were some of your other activities in other realities while you were giving Unknown Reality this book through Jane for well over a year? Question number 3, Rob asks, I suppose it's quite evident why you finished Unknown Reality right after we moved into our new house, but will you reassure Jane by commenting on this and on future works? So, next session we'll go into these 2 questions, and down here, Jane states that she's appalled. She's still appalled. She says this dejectedly, and she adds, here, my part in the thing is done, but you've got to live with it for a long time yet, while you do the notes and typing. She's talking to Rob. I wish there was some way each book could be turned into print instantly, so that we could go on to the next one. I can't help it. Every time Seth finishes a book, I feel like crying. I know exactly how she feels, because I feel that way when I end a book also, which is a great reason to read it again. Rob points out here, he says, and why not? It's a perfectly natural reaction, he tells her. But an interesting point came out as we talked. Jane doesn't experience that strong nostalgia when she finishes one of her quote-unquote own books. And then Jane says, well, I'm just waiting now. I can feel session material there, but I don't know what it'll be about. I'm just waiting until I get over the shock. And that was all a quote. Okay, so his answer when he came back was, I will answer your questions on Wednesday. So next session. And you guys can read the this paragraph right here if you'd like. So, in reassuring Jane, Seth also states that he bids them a fond good evening, for now, from, he says, my unknown reality to yours. He says, you have all the books that you want. You can have all the books that you want, when you want them, and at your own pacing. Okay, so post-session notes. I'm skipping note 1. You guys can read that if you like. I'm just going to read this part where it says, in the 752nd session, July 28, 1975, Seth plunged into his next book, The Nature of the Psyche, Its Human Expression. Also, highly recommended book. If you have not read this book, you have to read this book. You have to read all of them, really. But, so yeah, he goes into another book, of course, and skipping note 2, and note number 3 is just the Appendix 20 for this volume, which I will get to eventually. I'm going to start probably doing the appendixes right after the next session that I record. I'm going to start the appendixes in volume 2 first, because that's the book that I just read, and then I will get to the appendixes for volume 1 and find some really awesome quotes and stuff. But right here it says that Appendix 20 is in reference to UFOs. So we will get to that. Okay, so next video, session 744, I wrote that it's Seth's time or how we view our time. So Seth's time or how we view our time. That will be another shorter session, but there's going to be awesome post-session notes with lots of excerpts from other books. And let's see what Rob says that the next session is about. Okay, so session 744 is this book and Probable Ones, Seth's Reality. So that'll be awesome. Definitely look for the next video or get the little bell, whatever. And then the book will be done, you guys. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe that much time has passed. I remember just starting it. Like, oh, it's so huge, it's so big. This is such an undertaking, I think I said. But I'm not done. This is like a whole nother book, these appendixes. Lots and lots of pages. So, to give you perspective, there's the last session. Going through, it's a short session with lots of excerpts. And then the appendix starts, so look. Whoa, right? I mean, it's not that bad in comparison to the whole book, but there's 2 volumes. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. And now that it's almost, well, I shouldn't say this yet. I should say that the next video, so I won't say it yet. But definitely thank you for watching.